A refrigerator door opens. The light flickers on, revealing a landscape of scarcity. A half-empty bottle of soda, a plastic container with leftover rice, a few slices of processed cheese, a carton of eggs. That's it. A voice, weary but resilient, cuts through the silence. This is what's left. The fresh food from our last grocery run, which was a 45-minute bus ride, by the way, is long gone. Now we're left with this. The nearest real supermarket? That's another trip. We just don't have the time or money for today. This isn't a scene from a developing country. This is daily life for millions of families right here in the United States. It's a reality where your zip code is a better predictor of your health and lifespan than your genetic code. For so many black neighborhoods, the nearest grocery store is miles away, leaving only corner stores and fast food chains as the main sources of food. These places offer an endless supply of processed high-sugar, high-sodium options, but finding an apple, a head of lettuce, or fresh meat is a quest. And this is no accident. It's not a random quirk of the market. This is the result of a system that has created what we call food deserts. But even that term is misleading. A desert is a natural phenomenon. What's happening in black communities across America is not natural. It's a deliberate, man-made crisis. Some have given it a more accurate name, food apartheid. And it isn't just about hunger. It's about health. It's about how the very design of our neighborhoods is creating a public health emergency, poisoning black families with diet-related diseases, and stacking the deck against them from birth. It's a betrayal of the principle that everyone, regardless of their background, deserves an equal chance at a healthy life. In this video, we'll investigate how decades of discriminatory policies built these conditions, how major corporations keep the problem going, and how the very programs designed to help, like food assistance, can become part of the cycle. But most importantly, we're going to show you the powerful community-led movements rising up to fight back, reclaim their health, and build a future that lives up to our shared creed. Equal opportunity for all, black and white, to have the right to real, nourishing food. Imagine trying to manage type 2 diabetes when the only food you can easily buy is the very food that makes your condition worse. Picture raising kids in a neighborhood where it's easier to find a bag of chips than a piece of fruit. This is the daily paradox for the nearly 1 in 4 black households in America experiencing food insecurity. The disparity is stark. Studies consistently show that predominantly black neighborhoods have far fewer supermarkets than white ones, even when comparing areas with similar income levels. This is a story about food, but it's really a story about justice, about health, and about who gets to decide what a community deserves. It's a challenge to the idea that we are a nation of equal opportunity, because when one group is systematically held back, that promise is broken for everyone. Let's spend a day with the Jackson family. That's not their real name, but their story is the story of millions. They live in a vibrant, close-knit neighborhood in a major American city. The streets are alive with culture and history, but one thing is glaringly absent: a grocery store. The day begins with a choice. Shanice, the mother, is trying to plan meals. Her husband works a long-haul trucking job, so this is usually on her. Her oldest son was recently diagnosed with prediabetes, and the doctor's advice was clear: more fresh fruits, vegetables, and lean proteins. Less sugar and processed carbs. Sounds simple, right? For Shanice, it's a logistical nightmare. The corner store a block away is what's known as a food swamp, an area not just empty of healthy options, but flooded with unhealthy ones. Inside, the aisles are a maze of brightly colored packages. Chips, cookies, sodas, and sugary cereals scream for attention. In a dusty, lukewarm cooler in the back, there might be a few sad-looking onions or a small bag of browning lettuce, usually with a hefty markup. If milk is available, it might cost 5% more than at a supermarket. Bread, 10% more. Cereal could be up to 25% more expensive. This is the convenience tax, paying more for less just because you have nowhere else to go. So, today is grocery day. It's not just an errand. It's an expedition. It starts with a 15-minute walk to the bus stop, then a 45-minute bus ride, sometimes with transfer, to get to the nearest full-service supermarket in a wealthier, wider suburb. The whole trip one way can take over an hour. If she has her youngest child with her, it's even tougher. Inside the store, the frustration builds. She's on a tight budget, relying on the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP. The program is a lifeline, but the benefits don't stretch far, especially when healthy food is so expensive. A bag of organic apples can cost as much as 3 boxes of mac and cheese. She moves through the aisles, calculator in hand, making painful choices. Fresh fish, or enough chicken to last a week, a variety of vegetables, or the bulk bag of rice her family counts on. Then comes the journey home. Hauling heavy bags onto a crowded bus is exhausting. By the time she gets back, the frozen food is starting to thaw, and she's completely drained. The whole process has taken almost 4 hours, a massive cost in time and energy that people in well-served neighborhoods never have to think about. Back in her kitchen, Shanice does her best. She tries to make the fresh produce last, but by the end of the week, it's gone. The last few days are a return to the corner store, a reliance on canned goods, processed meats, and pasta. Her son's blood sugar, which she carefully tracks, starts to creep up again. This isn't a failure of willpower. It's a failure of the system. It's a failure of a system that denies equal opportunity at the most basic level. The food on your plate. The constant stress of food scarcity, the physical toll of the journey, and the dietary roller coaster have real consequences. Shanice lives with hypertension, a condition that affects nearly 60% of Black adults. The high-sodium, processed foods that are easiest to find in her neighborhood are a direct contributor. Studies show that people in these communities have higher rates of hypertension, diabetes, and obesity. There's another hidden danger in this broken system, too: food poisoning. With limited access to fresh food, families might have to buy perishable items from stores with questionable supply chains or poor refrigeration. And when you combine that with a lack of access to culturally relevant food safety education, you have a perfect storm where communities already burdened with chronic illness are also at a higher risk of foodborne pathogens, which is especially dangerous for anyone with a compromised immune system. Shanice's story isn't an anomaly. It's a predictable, calculated result of a system built on a foundation of racial and economic discrimination. It's a system known as food apartheid. To understand why Shanice has to travel an hour for an apple, we have to rewind the clock. The food landscape in America wasn't created in a vacuum. It was engineered. For years, the go-to term for these neighborhoods was food desert. The USDA defines it as a low-income area where a lot of residents have low access to a supermarket. On the surface, the term seems to fit. But activists and community leaders have pushed back, arguing that the term is not just inaccurate, but it's also harmful. Karen Washington, a food justice advocate and urban farmer from the Bronx, coined the term food apartheid to give a more accurate diagnosis. Her point is that desert sounds like a natural phenomenon, something barren that just happened on its own. But these communities aren't empty. They're full of life, culture, and resilience. The problem isn't a lack of people or potential. It's a lack of justice. Food apartheid, as Washington defines it, looks at the whole food system, along with race, geography, and economics. It highlights that the lack of healthy food is a result of decades of intentional, discriminatory policies. It's a system of segregation, dividing those with access to nutritious food from those who have been systematically denied it. By calling it what it is, apartheid, we shift the focus from a simple lack of stores to the racist structures that created that lack in the first place. The story of food apartheid begins with the story of American cities. In the 1930s, as part of the New Deal, the federal government created the Homeowners Loan Corporation, or HOLC. The HOLC created residential security maps for over 200 cities, grading neighborhoods from green and desirable to D, red and hazardous. The main reason a neighborhood got marked in red? The presence of Black residents. This practice, known as redlining, effectively choked off investment and access to federally backed mortgages for Black families. It locked housing segregation into place and started a cycle of disinvestment that we still see today. After World War II, this segregation was supercharged by white flight. New highways and federally subsidized mortgages, largely denied to Black Americans, fueled a mass exodus of white families to the brand-new suburbs. And where did the businesses go? They followed the money. Supermarkets, a new concept at the time, were built for the suburbs. Their business model needed large stores, huge parking lots, and customers with cars. As they chased their white customers out of cities, they left a vacuum in the urban core, which was increasingly home to black families who were legally barred from moving to those same suburbs. Research confirms this direct line. Nearly a century later, historically redlined neighborhoods still have significantly less access to grocery stores. The lines drawn on those maps in the 1930s became the blueprints for the food apartheid of today. Today, grocery executives don't openly talk about race. They talk about profit margin, logistics, and risk, but the result is the same. This modern form of discrimination is often called supermarket redlining. It's the practice where large grocery chains refuse to build stores in low-income, predominantly black neighborhoods, citing a list of perceived urban obstacles. What are these so-called obstacles? Grocers claim that urban locations have higher costs for land and construction, higher insurance rates, and more complicated supply chains. They point to stereotypes about higher rates of theft or food spoilage. They argue that residents in these neighborhoods don't have enough purchasing power, making the profit margins too thin. But when you really look at these arguments, they fall apart. They're often based on prejudice, not data. They ignore the massive collective purchasing power of densely populated urban areas. They ignore the fact that residents in these neighborhoods are already spending money on food. They're just spending at corner stores, dollar stores, and fast food chains, often paying higher prices for lower quality goods. The truth is, these decisions are often driven by a bias that sees black neighborhoods as risky investments, the exact same logic that drove the original redlining maps. Studies have shown that even when you compare neighborhoods with similar poverty rates, black communities still have far fewer supermarkets than white communities. This proves the issue isn't just about class. It is fundamentally about race. The disinvestment becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. By refusing to invest, corporations ensure these neighborhoods stay economically depressed, which they then use to justify why they won't invest. This creates a permanent underclass, eroding the economic health of the entire city and undermining the goal of widespread prosperity and opportunity. The main government program meant to fight hunger is the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP. For millions, it is an essential lifeline. In recent years, about 22 to 23% of black people in the United States experience food insecurity, more than double the rate for white people, making SNAP a critical resource for the black community. But the program has a fundamental flaw when it runs up against food apartheid. SNAP benefits can be used almost anywhere that accepts EBT cards, and that includes the corner stores, dollar stores, and fast food chains that dominate the food landscape in these areas. While that flexibility is a necessity for people with no other options, it means that billions of federal dollars are unintentionally subsidizing the very processed, unhealthy foods that contribute to diet-related diseases. A family on SNAP living in a food apartheid zone faces an impossible choice. They can make the long, exhausting trip to a distant supermarket for a healthier, more expensive food, or they can use their benefits at the corner store for cheap, calorie-dense, nutrient-poor foods that will fill their stomachs but harm their health. This creates a vicious cycle. The system of food apartheid limits food choices. SNAP provides the funds, but those funds are often spent inside that same broken system. The resulting poor health outcomes, diabetes, hypertension, obesity, lead to higher healthcare costs and a lower quality of life, digging the trench of poverty and disadvantage even deeper. It's a systemic trap, and it's one that policy has largely failed to address. For millions of black families, the program designed to alleviate hunger is indirectly contributing to a public health crisis. This trap makes it nearly impossible for families to get ahead, undermining the social mobility that is crucial for a just society for all. The system isn't just failing to feed them. In a very real sense, it's poisoning them. In the face of systemic failure, a powerful response is taking root. All across the country, black communities aren't waiting for corporations or the government to save them. They're building their own solutions from the ground up, turning neglected city lots into vibrant farms, opening community-owned grocery stores, and demanding not just access, but control over their food. This is the movement for food sovereignty. In cities like Detroit, Chicago, and New York, you'll find one of the most visible forms of resistance, the urban farm. These aren't just quaint community gardens. They're sophisticated agricultural operations, often led by black farmers and organizers, dedicated to getting fresh, healthy produce to their neighbors. Take the Detroit Black Community Food Security Network. Founded by Malik Yakini, the organization runs D-Town Farm, a 7-acre organic farm right in city. They grow over 30 different fruits and vegetables to sell at community markets. But their mission goes beyond just growing food. They see agriculture as a tool for community empowerment and self-determination. It's about reconnecting people to the land and to the farming knowledge that was a deep part of Black history before being systematically stripped away. In Chicago, the Urban Growers Collective operates 8 urban farms on the city's south side. During the pandemic, when supply chains broke down and grocery shelves went bare in many neighborhoods, these urban farms became essential lifelines, providing thousands of pounds of fresh produce to families in need. They proved a crucial point. A localized food system is a resilient food system, a benefit not just for one neighborhood, but for the entire city's stability. These farms are acts of defiance. They are green oases in a landscape of concrete and convenience stores. They provide nutritious food, create jobs, and offer educational opportunities. But they often face a tough reality. Many operate on land they don't own, at constant risk of being displaced by developers. It highlights a critical part of the fight for food justice, the fight for land. Another powerful model for change is the community-owned grocery cooperative. Instead of waiting for a big chain to maybe move in, residents are pooling their resources to open their own stores. Stores that are accountable to the community because they are owned by the community. In West Oakland, California, the Mandela Grocery Cooperative has been a beacon for over a decade. Before it opened in 2009, the neighborhood was a textbook case of food apartheid, with dozens of liquor stores, but not one full-service grocer. Today, Mandela is a worker-owned co-op providing fresh produce, much of it from local Black and brown farmers. It's more than a store. It's a community hub, a source of healthy food, and a model of economic empowerment. In Detroit, the Detroit People's Food Co-op is another inspiring example. It's a Black-led, community-owned grocery store created with the clear goal of providing healthy food access and education. In Brooklyn, the Central Brooklyn Food Co-op was founded as a political act to build a food system centered on the needs of long-term Black residents. These cooperatives are fundamentally different from corporate grocery stores. Their primary mission isn't to maximize profit for distant shareholders. It's to serve the health and well-being of their members and the surrounding community. They prioritize buying from local and Black-owned farms, keeping money circulated within their own neighborhoods. They create good jobs and offer a democratic structure where community members have a real say. They are practicing economic democracy. They are building a model of local empowerment that could create opportunity in any community, Black or white, that has been left behind. These individual projects, the urban farms, the co-ops, the farmers' markets, are all part of a larger, transformative vision: food sovereignty. The term, first made popular by the international peasant movement La Via Campesina, means the right of peoples to healthy and culturally appropriate food produced through sustainable methods, and their right to define their own food and agriculture systems. It's a crucial step beyond the idea of food security. Food security asks, do people have enough food? Food sovereignty asks, who controls the food system? For Black communities in America, food sovereignty is about reclaiming that control. It's about ending the dependence on a corporate food system that has treated them with neglect. It's about rebuilding a food system based on justice, dignity, and self-determination. It's a demand for the power to build a future of health and opportunity, a right that should be universal. Leaders in this movement, like Leah Penniman of Soulfire Farm in upstate New York, are working to uproot racism in the food system. Soulfire Farm not only grows food for communities living under food apartheid, but also runs training programs for a new generation of Black and brown farmers, equipping them to lead this change. Penniman reminds us that Black people were this country's original farmers, brought here for their agricultural expertise. The food sovereignty movement is, in many ways, a reclamation of that stolen legacy. This work is not easy. It takes immense organizing, fundraising, and a constant fight for resources and land. But it offers a profound sense of hope and agency. It shows that even when facing a deeply entrenched system of injustice, communities have the power to create their own alternatives, to heal themselves, and to build a more just world, one seed at a time. We began with an empty refrigerator, a symbol of a system that has failed, a system that wasn't accidentally broken, but intentionally built to create scarcity in the midst of abundance. We've traced the lines of discrimination from the redline maps of the 1930s to the supermarket boardrooms of today, revealing a pattern of deliberate disinvestment that has left millions of black families in a state of food apartheid. We've seen how this system doesn't just create hunger, it creates sickness. It fuels a public health crisis of chronic diseases like diabetes and hypertension that is as systemic as the racism that causes it. But that is not where the story ends. The story also ends with a vision for a better future for everyone. It ends with hands in the soil of an urban farm in Detroit, reclaiming a vacant lot for nourishment. It ends with the doors of a black-owned food co-op opening in Oakland, a declaration of economic independence. It ends with the powerful, unified voices of a community demanding not just food, but control. The demand for food sovereignty. The problem of food apartheid is vast and systemic, and it will require systemic change. It requires reforming policies, from zoning laws that support urban farms to changes in SNAP that encourage healthy choices without penalizing those with no options. It requires holding corporations accountable for their discriminatory investment practices. But the most powerful force for change is the one we've seen in action, the community itself. The solution isn't charity, it's solidarity. It's the understanding that we are all connected, and that a system that denies opportunity to black families ultimately weakens the promise of opportunity for all. It's not about dropping food into a desert. It's about investing in the people who are already there, cultivating solutions that create health and economic justice. The resilience shown in these communities provides a blueprint for a more just food system for everyone, ensuring that opportunity isn't determined by zip code or skin color. The empty refrigerator is a question. The urban farms, the food co-ops, the fight for food sovereignty, that is the answer. It's an answer rooted in justice, nourished by community, and blossoming with the hope of equal opportunity for all. If this story moved you, don't let it end here. The fight for food justice is happening everywhere, and you can be a part of it. First, educate yourself and others. Share this video to help people understand the difference between a food desert and food apartheid. Knowing the systemic nature of the problem is the first step to fixing it.